Hello YouTube and welcome back to another DRYATIC game video. Today we're playing Mount & Blade Bannerlord and we're going to be going over the top 10 best archer units or ranged units in general in the Eagle Rising mod for Bannerlord. So this is a total conversion mod that brings the entire game back into a more accurate late antiquity, very early medieval type period. So we're going to see a lot more of a height of the Roman Empire aesthetic here. So with that in mind, let's just dive on in and start off with the number 10 best ranged unit in the game. And so at number 10 we have the BATTANII Marksman, so one from BATTANII. This one is a result of the regular recruit tree through the tribesman down to the far right through the slinger, hunter, archer, and marksman. So it is an archer type unit, uses a bow and arrow. The loadout for this one, and we are just going to focus on the first set because there are a number of sets for every single one of these troops. For the most part, they don't make large differences, but we will always just be focusing on set number 1. So for this loadout, we have the brass cavalry helm with gold plume, the sleeveless chainmail over obelix, and the tribal sturdy shoes, giving us an AAR of 23.25, which is pretty dang good for an archer. Our weapon loadout here is the step warbow, then we have a quiver of bodkin arrows, the fine steel axe, and another quiver of bodkin arrows. So 2 quivers of nice high damage arrows which give you 3 pierce. So stats to pay attention to on this one are going to be one-handed of 130 for our axe, athletics of 130, and bow of 130. Across the board, the BATTANII Marksman does make a very, very good unit. They're well armored, they've got a good bow, plenty of arrows, and really good stats, so nothing to complain about there. That is why the BATTANII Marksman takes the number 10 spot. Let's move on to number 9. At number 9 we have the DRYATIC Marksman, and so this one is going to also be from the basic recruit tree. So we start with the clansman, then go to the woodrunner, and then follow it through the archer, bowman, and marksman classes for troops. And so this one is going to be yet another one that is a stereotypical archer, so bow and arrow type ranged unit. Our loadout here is the iron Chalcidian helm, the leather laminata armor, and the trousers, which give us altogether an average armor rating or AAR of 23.75, so just slightly better than the BATTANII Marksman. So for our weapons on this one, we've got the Nordic short bow, which is a pretty good weapon, the bodkin arrows for 2 quivers of them, and then the bronze broadsword for our one-handed weapon. So stats to pay attention to here are one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and bow of 130. So stats are the same across the board as the BATTANII Marksman, we just have slightly better armor here. So, and it's a very small difference. So I could see preferring one over the other for whatever reason. Maybe you just like the way the armor looks on one better, because they are almost identical units, but the DRYATIC Marksman is just slightly better for armor value. So that's number 9. Let's move on to number 8. At number 8, we have the SAKA Marksman. So the SAKA are the far eastern part of the map in this mod. They would take the part of the Khuzaits from the vanilla game. And the SAKA Marksman is part of the SAKA Nomad troop tree, and you go down through the right, through the archer, hunter, skilled archer, and finally to the marksman. This one for our loadout has the bronze helm with scale, the scale over leather armor, and the tribal pants for our armor, giving us a total average armor rating of 25.25. So a little bit above the last two that we looked at, so we get a couple points better average armor rating across the board. The weapons we have equipped for this one are the step recurve bow, which is one of the best bows in the game, 2 quivers of step arrows, which are excellent arrows, which give you 2 pierce, and a steel sword for our melee weapon. So stats to pay attention to on this one are one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and bow of 130. So stats across the board, again, going to be the same as the first two we talked about on this list. Really the only change is that we have slightly better armor value here. Also a slightly better bow. So across the board, the SAKA Marksman is just going to be superior to both the DRYATIC Marksman and the BATTANII Marksman, and that's why it takes the number 8 spot. But let's move on to number 7. Okay, at number 7 for our ranged units, we have our first slinger on this list. So it is a ranged unit that is extremely effective but does not use a bow and arrow, instead uses a sling and throws rocks. So this one is the QALLAA NAHASI BUHUR, the slinger from the Kanak NAHASI culture, which would take over the Aserai from the vanilla game. And our recruits here start with the Peruz NAHASI, which is a swordsman, and then we go down through the right path. So the Nar NAHASI, the QALLAA NAHASI, the QALLAA NAHASI Zugan, and finally the QALLAA NAHASI BUHUR. And so the loadout on this one is the Kanak Konos, the chainmail, and the boots, which give us altogether an average armor rating of 25.5, so just slightly better than the last one. But our weapons are the reinforced sling, which gives us 80 damage, which is nice and high. Then we have lead bullets, and we have 2 of those, and they stack to 40, so that's 80 lead bullets, so they have a ridiculous amount of ammo, which is one of the things that makes slingers really, really effective in this mod, even more effective than the vast majority of archers. Then for our melee weapon, we have the expensive Falcata, which is a really good one-handed weapon. So stats to pay attention to on this unit are one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and crossbow of 130, because the sling is classed as a crossbow type weapon in this game, even though it has a significantly higher fire rate than the crossbow. So those are the stats to pay attention to here. Like I said, across the board, it's got the same stats as all of the other archers we've looked at 130, just being slightly better armor at 25.5, plus having the nice advantage of way more ammo. So the QALLAA NAHASI BUHUR takes the number 7 spot. Let's move on to number 6. So at number 6, we have another BATTANII troop and another slinger, the BATTANII Stone Killer. So this one starts with the tribesman, then goes down to the right to the slinger, and follows the left path then after that through the Palaic Experienced Slinger, the BATTANII Veteran Slinger, and finally the BATTANII Stone Killer. Our loadout for this one is the Copper Sturdy Cavalry Helm, the Sleeveless Tribal Chainmail over Colored Obelix, the Polished Bronze Bracers, and the Tribal Sturdy Boots, all of which put together gives us an average armor rating of 27, which is pretty nice. Then we have the Reinforced Sling, which again is classed as a crossbow and gives us that 80 blunt damage. We of course have 2 sacks of lead bullets, each of which having a 40 stack amount, so 80 for ammunition, and finally the Fine Steel Axe for our one-handed weapon. So stats to pay attention to on this one are one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and crossbow of 130. So once again, we're across the board all at the 130 level for levels, but we have slightly better armor with this one, giving us the average armor rating of 27 and making it the best armor so far on this list. So the BATTANII Stone Killer is an excellent unit, and they take the number 6 spot. At number 5, we've got a Imperial troop, the Legionarius Ballistarius. So this one is a crossbow unit from the Empire, starts with the Legionarius Immunes, then through the Legionarius Faber to the Legionarius Ballistarius. Our loadout on this one is the Gallic H for the helmet, the Lorica Hamata reinforced with Terouge for the armor, and the Calladoi for the leg armor, all of which put together gives us a pretty solid average armor rating of 28.5. Our weapons on this one are the Bound Crossbow, which is a really, really good crossbow, best one in the game, giving us 100 pierce damage. Then we have 2 quivers of light bolts, which each have a stack of 20, so 40 for ammunition, and the Tempered Gladius type Baravenus for our melee weapon. So stats to pay attention to here are one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and crossbow of 130. So the Legionarius Ballistarius has the same stats across the board as all the other archers we talked about, all of them being at 130, but this one again is just going to be an improvement because of the armor, and for this one we have an average armor rating of 28.5, which makes it the highest one so far. So that's number 5. Let's move on to number 4. At number 4, we have another Imperial troop. This time it's a slinger in the AUXILIA FUNDITOR PROBATUS. This one is part of the AUXILIA Cohortalis Tiro troop tree, and so from there we go down through the Funditor Tiro, down to the Funditor Paratus, and finally the AUXILIA Funditor Probatus. The loadout here is the Brass Italic G for the helmet, the Tartan Cape, the Lorica Hamata with Terouge, and the Wrapped Boots for armor, which all put together gives us an average armor rating of 31.5. Our weapons here are the Reinforced Sling, which is classed as a crossbow, 2 stacks of lead bullets, each of which being 40, so 80 for ammunition, and then the Tempered Gladius type Baravenus for our one-handed weapon. So stats to pay attention to here are one-handed of 130, crossbow of 130, and athletics of 130. So again, across the board 130, just with that improvement to our AAR. So that's number 4. Let's move on to number 3. At number 3, we have another Imperial troop, the Mercenarius Sagittarius EGREGIUS. And this one is from the Mercenarius Novicus troop tree down through the Sagittarius Tiro, Sagittarius Novicus, Sagittarius Paratus, and the Sagittarius Egregius being at the bottom. So our loadout here is the Auxiliary Archer Gallia for the helmet, the expensive Auxilia Squamata, the Archery Bracer, and the Calche for the leg armor, giving us an average armor rating of 34.25, so nice and high there. Our weaponry here is the Strong Assyrian Bow, which is a really good bow, 2 quivers of bodkin arrows, so 48 ammo, and the Tempered Gladius type Bravenos. So stats to pay attention to here are one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and bow of 130, and again, that average armor rating of 34.25, all put together giving us the number 3 spot. At number 2, we have our final Imperial Archer unit in the the Auxilia Sagittarius Paratus. This one comes from the Auxilia Cohortus Tiro troop tree, then from the Funditor Tiro, then down through the Sagittarius Tiro, the Sagittarius, and the Sagittarius Paratus. The loadout on this one is the Brass Italic G for the helmet, the Lorica Squamata Brass with Terrouge, the Archery Bracer, and the Wrapped Boots, which all put together gives us an average armor rating of 38. So the best armor out of any archer that I was able to find in the entire game. Our weapons here are the Step Warbow, which is a very good warbow, 2 quivers of bodkin arrows, so 48 for ammunition, and the Tempered Gladius type Baravenus for our melee weapon. So stats to pay attention to are one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and bow of 130. So again, 130s across the board, just with the best armor for any archer in the game. So the Auxilia Sagittarius Paratus takes the number 2 spot. Let's move on to number 1. Finally, at number 1, we have a Conic Nahasi troop, the QASHUT GAWWALI BUHUR, and this one comes from the Ish GAWWALI unit, and you upgrade down through the far right path through the Sayud GAWWALI, the Sayud GAWWALI BUHUR, the QASHUT GAWWALI, and finally the QASHUT GAWWALI BUHUR. So this one is a longbowman. Loadout here we have the Nahasi helm with cheek guards, the leopard pelt cape, the tunic, and the boots, which are a little bit lighter and give us some of the lightest archer armor and the lightest overall on this list at an average armor rating of 19.25. So definitely not very well armored unit. That being said, our weapons are the strong tribesman bow, which is one of the best longbows in the game, 2 quivers of barbed arrows, so 40 for ammunition, and the expensive falcata for our one-handed weapon. But where we really shine is our stats. So across the board, stats to pay attention to here are one-handed of 140, athletics of 140, and bow of 140. So highest stats out of any archer in the game, but we do have that lighter armor value. It really depends on your playstyle, but overall, I like my archers to deal out lots and lots of high damage, especially from nice long range, which you get with the longbow. So the QASHUT GAWWALI BUHUR does take the number 1 spot, in my opinion, for the best archers in the game, and that is all 10 of the best archers in Eagle Rising Dawn of an Empire, the mod for Mount and Blade Bannerlord. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful, but that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.